Greenways Open Space Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:05. And could we please stand and let us say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Okay. Thank you. Before I call the roll, I want to thank the community and other members of the Downriver area, and certainly our Recreation Commission for putting on another outstanding Island Fest this past weekend. So again, all those who were involved in that, we certainly appreciate it, and it was a great event as always. So thank you again for that. I will call the roll at this time. So Urbani, absent. Geist.
Here.
Carson.
Here.
Brown. Phillips.
I'm here.
Shelton. Miss Shelton is in the girls soccer finals at Country Day. Number 1 and number 2. I think we're number 2. Robinson.
Here.
Bartlett.
Here.
Brock. Here. Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as you see? I would like to make a, since Ms. Brown is not here and wants to do her presentation in person, I would like to remove the presentation on our communication plan that we will do at another date. Is there a motion to remove the communication plan?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Phillips. Did I second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bartlett. Any further discussion? All those in favor of removing the communication plan from our agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Good. I need a motion now to approve the agenda as amended. See where I'm getting better at that.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Bartlett.
Second.
Second by Ms. Phillips. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Good. Thank you. Our next order of business is the approval of the minutes of May 6th, our regular meeting. And they are in purple prose this evening. So if you look at your packet, and I want to thank Mr. Geist again for putting together the meeting minutes. And I do owe an apology. I didn't forward Mr. Urbani's notes from our last meeting, but he was able to complete these as excellently as he has in the past. So if you take a minute or two, take a look at the minutes of the May 6th meeting. And then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from May.
I motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Carson.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Bartlett. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval of the May 6th Greenways Open Space meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Geist.
I wasn't here.
He wasn't here. And he's able, by the wonders of technology, able to get it word for word from the video presentation that we have. And we thank the Communications Committee for that. At this point, we have our public comment period, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. There are no public comments at this time. The presentation has been from Ms. Brown, will be rescheduled for another date, and we'll talk about the other date. We do come to our action item about approving the trail refurbishing in the Parkway Woods. And just as maybe an update on that, we the Parkway Trail has generally has been there, but it's been underutilized and has not been fully developed. And with the development of the master plan, which we can talk about when that will be finally completed, it's a question of we're looking at greater connectivity for GROSSE, more ways than once, not just in communication, but in terms of like egress and ingress, being able to get from point A to point B. And so we also realize that the playscape is township property, and there may be other developments that will be involved there. And so subsequently what has happened is that we have, at least in open space, we have there's a trail that we have connected from the Jackson Center, which is the GROSSE Nature and Land Conservancy property, and at the back of their property, to the edge of where the drainage ditch is. And then there's the issue now is like connecting it to the Parkway trail that's generally been there. So what you see this as an action item. We've talked about this on the last couple of meetings. The action item I think that we would be looking at is that we would want, it's going to take like some obviously work on the part of DPS, or if we hire like another outside company like Campo Brothers or TNT or somebody to do that kind of work, that could be a possibility. But it's a question of it's going to probably lay down some gravel, much like we did with the ferry gauge trail. Okay, so we may be widening the trail, we may be extending it however we can to make that kind of connectivity. So and make it a little more user friendly, not only for walkers or runners or bikers, but just in terms of getting from Parkway to Macomb, it may be another way. So at least as an action item, and again, I'd like a little discussion before we maybe move forward, but what this would entail, and I have talked to Derek Thiel and also John Keim, our DPS foreman, is that there's going to be a cost of putting down some gravel, okay, as we have in the other trails, and then wood chips and how that develops. And and I know, and this is always our frustration, is kind of, a lot of this is weather dependent, because if you go in, I was just on, some trails, and you can see where they try to get in, or we try to get, and they get tore up pretty quickly with heavy equipment. So, are we at least clear in terms of what the goal is in terms of that? I guess the motion I would like to, if we're going to expend any funds, we have to at least have a motion to that in that regard, and then it could be up to a certain amount of money, or however we do this, not to exceed. So, any questions or any comments on that?
Well, you got to make a motion first.
Yeah, okay. Oh yes, I do. Is there a motion to approve the trail refurbishing in the Parkway Woods?
Let's say up to 5,000, not to exceed 5,000.
Not
That
to
way
exceed
we do not have
$5,000.
to get board
Correct,
approval.
and that's generally what we do. And if we needed to go back to the board, I mean, we certainly can.
I will move for that.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, that you're looking for trail refurbishing in the Parkway Woods not to exceed $5,000 is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Phillips. Any further discussion?
Yes. Again, what are you anticipating that either the DPS or a contractor is going to be doing? You said laying down some gravel, but is that, and what else are you anticipating?
What we generally have done, if we use the ferry gauge trail as maybe the best example we have, okay, of a pretty solid trail where there wasn't one, is that right now the Parkway trail exists, okay? So it's there, and there's even like, the fallen logs that are off to the side, so there's, so one of the things we would have to do is that you'd have to get in there and you'd have to, get, as we have done in the past, get, loads of gravel in there, okay? And then it would have to be, spread out according to, and generally, I think we get it wide enough, like we have the Meridian Woods Trail, that's at least 10 feet across, maybe?
So where are you talking about putting this gravel?
All the way from Parkway probably up to the ditch before you get onto that other property.
that far in.
Right, that's pretty far.
Yeah,
But
yes,
that,
it
but
is.
also, that's what we did the last time when we did the Ferry Gauge Trail.
Now, what about also connecting to the Land Conservancy trailhead that leads to their resource center? Like you said, they've created a trail
Right.
up into that ditch, and now it's a matter of getting across that ditch and then tying into the
And
existing
realize that's on
trail.
open space property that we are aware of, okay?
Yes.
So if we need to do it from that point onward, we can. You know, keep in mind, we're gonna keep within our, you know, within our budget. So if it's a question of the last time we did any kind of heavy gravel work like that, it was like, you know, $3,500, okay? And that was like for the parking lots.
Right.
So this might be more, okay? And so we would have to come back, we may have to come to the board and say, hey, look, you know, keep in mind, it's in our budget, okay, for budget maintenance for trails, but it's just a question of, okay, well, it's gonna cost us much more than that, okay? But right now, we'd like to at least move in that direction, okay? Rather than just say, oh, well, we're gonna wait, and then 2 years later, we get at it. So,
Is 5,000 sufficient funds to do based off?
I think so. I
historically?
think based on our experiences with other trails and other, you know, and the biggest thing is, you know, getting in there, even if they have a smaller front end loader or something to kind of clear the way and kind of like, and if nothing else, you know, you can get volunteers in there like that. Okay, let's move these logs out of the way. Here's the path. You know, here's our pathway. Now we're going to have to lay the gravel allayment. And now we're going to have to put wood chips or whatever else on top, so.
It's an existing trail, correct? That they're
It
just
is an
gonna be-
existing
okay.
trail.
And-
The trail is there.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we set $5,000, because if it exceeds that amount, we then have to get township board approval.
Okay.
So this cuts down on some of the bureaucracy we have to go through and potential delays of.
Don't mean that in a
being able
bad
to do
way,
that.
but.
Oh,
again,
absolutely
it's
not.
also- No, but, yeah, but you're right.
I mean, we have control over our budget,
Correct.
like I said, up to certain amounts, and then exceeding that, we have to get the
right.
board directly involved
And
in
if we have
it.
to go back, we will. You know,
Yeah, and the
that's-
board always has the option of
Oh, yeah.
injecting themselves
Mhm.
into this. It just, like I said, simplifies it a little bit.
Right.
We're
Any-
not doing anything underhanded.
No, we are not.
Can I ask, so I'm a lot more familiar with the Nature Conservancy properties than all the open space trails.
Yes.
So I know where it starts, you know, off of the resource center, but I don't understand, like, does a trail go to the old
Yeah.
park?
Yeah, it goes, actually, if you go, I'm trying to think of the street. We have an open space, so if you're going, here, you can look on your map. If-
Woodside, isn't
It's Woodside. It's Woodside. That's right. So as you're heading east on Grosville Parkway, okay, on the left-hand side, there's a sign that designates that area as like open space. This is open space area. Just probably not 50 yards, if that, there's the start of the trail. Part of the problem right now is that there's a lot of trees have grown over it. And you really can't see like where the trail starts or ends, okay? Like, or, you know, that's the trailhead right there. So that needs to be like, you know, that can be trimmed and cleaned out, and then, but you walk in there and it opens up. I mean, it's
So
wide
is-
enough.
Is that where people would park, on the gravel area?
No, they probably would park like on Woodside or whatever, that other second street there, right? Or ideally, they would park like at the nature, Grosville Nature, the Jackson Center, and go that way.
So then how do you decide where you want gravel and where you want wood chips?
Oh, no, you put the gravel base down, you put the wood chips on top.
Oh, okay. Okay, just so it doesn't get muddy or that.
Right.
farther.
is
Gotcha.
that we're talking about.
Right, does that make sense? Yeah, because that's what we did with the Ferry Gauge Trail, and that's solid.
Okay.
Where does the trail end from, if you're going from Grosville Parkway north, where does it trail end on the north side currently?
Right behind, originally, right behind where the playscape was.
Okay.
Behind the
place.
post office.
Right.
So with that playscape being removed, is the plan now to connect it to the nature or the Jackson Resource Center?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because let's, for example, say that the DDA says, oh, we want to sell that entirely, okay? Part of it, however, is open space. So it's almost like the playscape was carved out, okay, and then the open space like kind of surrounds it. Because open space surrounds, you know, if you pulled into the original playscape and you went west, I mean, there's a trail that goes west and it kind of loops back around behind the, the public service building and ends up, right back there. So, I mean, that's our property. Yeah, go ahead, James.
So I understand where it's ending on terms of like where the old playscape used to be.
Yes.
My question is in terms of on Grosville Parkway, where is it beginning from there? I heard you say the north.
Right across from Woodside.
So, and can I ask in terms, I guess, in relation to the police station? I understand that's a little off of Parkway, but just in that vicinity from
It's
Parkway to the...
on a diagonal, it's probably not quite a mile. 3/4 of a mile.
Now, there is part of that trail that does head west and doesn't get quite over to the police station, but it just kind of loops and comes on back.
Okay, and the only reason I'm asking is
A
there,
half mile away.
there was concern because, I mean, I've grown up here my whole life, and me and my friends used to go, short from Parkway to the police station.
Right.
We used to play around in those woods. It would flood, and
Right, yes.
ice would freeze over, and we'd run around and play on the ice and stuff. And my only concern was if the trail was going to be in there, that, if when it did get rainy and everything like that, that it would just erode the whole trailway and this would be all for nothing. But
Well-
if it's starting further down, then I don't think there's as much concern
you're right.
for
No,
it.
because that whole area that's marshy, because there's always been a conversation about, well, why don't we just extend that trail, behind the playscape that heads west, like right behind the police station.
That's where I thought
Okay,
you guys
because,
might have been
because
going.
it's majorly swampy there, okay? I mean, we're talking about, that's a vernal wetlands if there ever was one, okay?
And that's
So,
why
I
that
mean,
was
it
my
truly
concern.
is. I mean, you
Yeah.
take a look at, it's all full of phragmites right now, but, it's, so it's not there.
Okay,
Okay.
that's, I
and
just
the
want to make
trail,
sure
actually, the
that.
trail heads and it actually elevates because the ground is up and it's more behind, like there used to be the bank or where the playscape area
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And we can do, here's the other thing, and I guess we have to look at this too, is that we can connect it by going to the back of the playscape area and using the existing trail that way. I mean, that may be our best bet because there's a drainage ditch there that has to be cleaned out. And, we're also looking at, we got to traverse that somehow. And so if it's, you want to go with the narrowest spot or make it easy, that's all.
So one of the things that we did when I was on the board of the resource center was, whenever we were talking about doing something like this, then maybe like the weekend before or the week before, they would have somebody out there and would kind of walk us through and
Oh,
show
yeah,
us
we can do the same.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would
I
be
mean,
really,
I'm leaving on
helpful.
vacation, but I'll be back.
well, you're
okay,
going
but-
to have to just postpone.
But yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, have a nice
Not
time.
gonna happen.
Okay, have a nice time. You're always welcome to tromp in any of our trails, or
Yeah.
or make your own. This is the beauty of open space.
Yep.
So
Is there a timeline to complete the work, or
no,
we're
not
just-
really. I
okay.
mean, we would like to get it going,
Yep.
and let's
Yep.
Yeah, once we get into summer, it's usually a bit drier and easier and work there because
Yeah.
once you get in the spring and the fall, it tends to get a little
It gets
soggy
wet, yeah, it's
in
tough.
places. So that's the main reason we bring it up at this time.
Right. So is there any further discussion? Are we good? Okay. I would, and it's already been second, so I'll call the vote in terms of the trail refurbishing on Parkway Woods. That there is a motion to approve that, not to exceed amount of $5,000, which is in our budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good, thank you. And yes, we will get you all out there and we'll show you exactly where it is and what has to happen in that regard. Good. Okay, brings us to our discussion item. Our first, I guess we should have, although we can talk about this, our discussion items are, first thing we were going to talk about was the communication plan that was going to be developed or presented. Anybody want to make a comment about that, or any ideas or any thoughts on that?
Sorry.
Any ideas about the communication? Yolanda was going to do her presentation, and that's why we put it right on social media.
I'd like to just hear what she has to say at
Right.
our next meeting.
No, I agree. All right, we'll move to our next thing, our open space use signs, and then our open space sign replacements. And I don't know if I meant to bring it at our last meeting, but on our major trails, our 5 major trails, we have posted at the beginning and the ends of the trails, or the trailheads either way, depending on which direction you're coming from, these signs, okay? And basically what it is that many meetings ago, like in 2024, this group sat down and we kind of hammered out, like, okay, what do we want on the signs, what do we don't want to, so we went through this, so a previous board developed these. In some cases, there are some negative thoughts, or at least negativity in terms of like, no this, no this, no this, but some of it is very clear from township ordinances that we have. Also, it's just some common sense kind of thing that a lot of times, unfortunately, as we know, not everyone, the common sense is not so common, okay? So, like, and I can say
And Bill,
that.
they have been posted?
They are posted, they are staked and in the ground.
Oh, they
So
are?
They are
Okay.
there. That's what I'm saying. So that's why I brought it, so in case you haven't seen
Oh,
these.
okay, great.
So, and again, I'll go through these real quick. Open dawn to dusk, no access after dark, okay? And that was in response to an issue that we had, or issues that we have had, okay? More times than not. No littering or dumping of any kind, okay? The violator is subject to $500 fine. That's township ordinance. No discharging of firearms or hunting, township ordinance, right? Simple there. No open fires, that's township ordinance. Respect the privacy of others, okay? So as you're on the trails, okay, you don't cut through somebody's backyard or go lay on their back porch or something like that, so but again, that's an issue, because one of the things you should note, and some of you are new to this, we try to keep our trails and development of any trails away from private property as best as possible, in terms of, like, running up against somebody's backyard or side yard or front yard. So no alcoholic beverages or glass bottles. I think that's state law last I checked, okay, on some of the alcoholic beverages, open and tox. No motorized vehicles except permitted by the ADA, okay? And there's still some discussion about motorized vehicles. Go ahead.
Okay, I just comment on that, because I from the last meeting that I wasn't.
Saw 2 ADAs.
Is that, yes, even though electric bikes and that are not considered motorized vehicles, and I think this also reflects the thinking of the Land Conservancy too, is that e-bikes and as such can operate such a high speed, they pose a safety risk to those who are
Yes.
utilizing it. So I would discourage the use of e-bikes and even
Right.
those electric motorbikes and things like that,
Right.
from a safety standpoint. Well, not to mention, they tend to tear up the
Bikes,
trails.
safety bikes on the trails.
Right, but the signs are already up, guys, so so it's a question of, I think our intent is there, so, you're not gonna take your, off-roader or your three-wheeler or things of this nature. I mean, come on. No feeding of wildlife, okay? No removal of plants or wildflowers. I said that's why they're called wildflowers, keep them there, okay? Dogs must be on a leash, we've talked about that, there's some issues with that, and then please, see, we use please take your trash home with you. That's all we ask. Just enjoy the trails. We want you to get out there often, okay? But these are, so in all of our trails, we have these posted, and there's no, anybody want to comment? We did have some, we had last meeting, we've identified, no sooner we put them up, we had some vandalism. It's like, so, the local anarchist group here, apparently doesn't like rules and regulations, and it's like, and we understand, this is a free place, Grosseille's really open and free in many ways, and that's, so this was a shock. But, Mr. Carson, was there any in your neighborhood, that sign that, remember, that you restored?
All's good.
All's good, see, I know. So, and they're all, the one I saw off of East River, that's all good too. So maybe it was just the initial shock that, hey, we're actually posting things that,
So,
yeah.
can I ask a question?
Go ahead,
There
sure.
haven't been any more knocked over signs since
Nope,
the last
that's what I
week?
meant. No,
That's
it's been,
sure I said
we're done with that, hopefully. And that's all. And they're pretty innocuous, and it's not like they're in-your-face signs. They could have been much larger. I mean, we were looking at larger signs. It won't, could have been, another, but no, we're okay. Last I checked, when you go to either state or other federal, parks, these are posted. So this is nothing new. Any other? The other piece, and we said that we were going to do this, is that first off, I want to thank everyone here, okay, who was involved, and I know Kaitlyn and Isabella Roscoe were out there working. Mr. Geist and I, Mr. Carson, went out and cleaned up the signs. So we said some of the signs that we did, and they actually cleaned up and they look pretty good, okay, some of them, okay. But we also know that there are certain places that need new signs that just simply identify it as open space, and maybe what the area is, like Meridian Woods or whatever, and what year it was put into the open space, and the acreage. So I'm pleased to report that I got a bid on open space signs, okay? And this is consistent with and I can pass this to you. I didn't put it in your thing, but it's from My Custom Signs, which is generally the company that's done the open space signs and does the signs for the township, okay?
That's the company we did the last batch
Did the
with.
last batch one, okay. So 2 of the areas, we need new signs. They don't have signs at all. So the Ferry Gauge Trail area off of Ferry needs a sign that identifies that as such.
That's the one off of Gage?
That's the one off of Ferry.
Off of Ferry, you're right, I'm sorry,
There's
yeah.
nothing, we have a bench there, we have whatever, but there's no hey, there's a lot more to it. The observation deck that we had the Eagle Scout last time,
I think that's called Manor Woods.
that's Manor Woods.
Okay.
That's an area also that don't have any signs, don't have any kind of posting. And Mandy, when you were traveling down Meridian, you wondered where the observation deck is. You'll know now. Okay.
On Hennepin?
No,
No, at Bruce Jones?
Nope, on Meridian,
on
Thoroughfare,
Meridian.
on the Thoroughfare
Oh, the
Canal.
Thoroughfare one,
Right,
yeah.
okay. There's one at Horse Mill and Wood Drive. I don't think it goes back to about, 1983, I think? You can hardly read, it's hardly legible, okay?
Is it
Can't
Wood or
wash it.
Canal?
It's Wood, I believe, okay?
It is wood, yes.
It is Wood,
Okay.
okay? Canal is a little further. Okay, Meridian in Manchester. So if you look at right where it's on the west side, no, it's on the east side of the bike path right off of Manchester and Meridian. There's like 51 acres that are there. That sign's in pretty bad shape. Meridian south of Horse Mill, I don't know if Kaitlyn, you guys cleaned that one up?
Yeah, that one was pretty bad.
That one's really bad, okay, and I think it's only like 2 acres, 3 acres, but you can't tell what it is, okay, but it is open space area. So that was one that was identified like, hey, we probably need a sign there.
I'm sorry, where was that one again?
Meridian south of Horse Mill. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I got, the Meridian south of Horse Mill is, south of Horse Mill.
Is that the one with the potted plants?
One with the potted plants,
Okay.
yep. And
Some
then
flower pots on.
right, I know. And then the south of Ferry, that's the one I was talking about. That's on Thoroughfare on the east side.
Yeah, that one's called
Oh,
Lowry Greenway, or at least
Yes.
on here, okay.
Anyway, and I can pass this to you, and we've already approved this like 3 meetings ago, I think. But again, it was one of those up to $5,000. So for those new posts and for installation, it's $3,277. So $3,277 for 6 signs, 2 new signs included in that 6 with posts.
So could you repeat that total
Yeah,
again?
$3,277.
That includes installation?
That includes installation.
excellent, excellent.
So our state, I can
Good price.
shoot that to you.
Oh, yeah.
And at least that was a quote.
Did they give us any time frame in which?
No, I have
For
to,
receipt.
I just I sent them another email just saying, hey, we want to get going on this.
Now, we also still identify the number of acreage for
Yes,
each of these
right.
plots, so that's gotta be.
So it'll say like Manor Woods, or it'll say Manchester Meridian, it'll identify it. They're better identifiers, I think.
Okay.
Good?
I just saw that come up.
Yeah, so it's your trail, but the ones we cleaned up, really cleaned up, I think, pretty well. So we're trying to be frugal with our money, not saying, oh, let's spend all our money on signs, Well, we at least made the effort to clean them up, and they did clean up pretty well.
Yep, got it.
See?
Nice.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. So anything else on open space signs or the use signs, regulations?
It's interesting, I think,
Talk into the mic.
that,
Into the mic.
we spend so much of our time talking about signs.
Yes.
And that they're such a big part of identifying and, being recognizable and this people know. And it's kind of because when this started in '96, who would have thought, but it's just progress and progression
It is.
and the way it goes, but it's interesting.
No, I agree. Anything else? James, you freezing over there? Okay. Sorry, it was like 90 when we first walked in, so. All right, good. Anything else on open space use signs or the sign replacements? Are we good? Good, okay, great. Well, this summer, one of the things that we always have to kind of be mindful of is that, like trees, we have storms and trees fall and that, okay? One of the things I'm asking all of our members of the committee to do is when you're out and about or when you're around, or if somebody says, hey, I've got an issue here or there's a problem in your area that you're kind of responsible for, so the woods that you're responsible for, Bob, you're on the north end there, and then, you might be on the south end or however you're doing, just be mindful, okay? And then since we aren't going to have a meeting, okay, or maybe a regular meeting, maybe until September, we may have another special meeting as we'll talk. But again, that's maybe some of the work that we need to do in terms of like, be vigilant and let's get out there, and if we have to maintain this, and again, if a tree is down, if we need to, to make that expenditure, if there's other maintenance issues that has to happen, so let's communicate. We can still do that, okay? And I think that's a kind of a critical piece. Trying to think what else. If you see anything that's like an encroachment, or you see anything that is a problem, okay, bring that to our attention too. And I think so we can work together to keep Grosseal nice and clean and have people enjoy the open spaces and the trails that we have. So that sound reasonable? It's good.
Can I ask you a question?
You may.
Are people allowed, like if there's a tree down and the wood is cut up, are they allowed to go and get wood from open space? Like somebody's been taking, I guess, some kind of wheelbarrow or something and getting all the wood they can?
I don't. If the tree's already fallen and is down, and you need to haul, you want to, and keep in mind when a Splenda came through and did like a lot of the trimming of the power lines and that. Basically, what they did is that they stacked very neatly up against like trees in open space, just wood, okay, that's there, and it's like free for everyone. So if you look around your neighborhoods, or look around, and if you have had power lines, like this has probably been 2 years now, when they went through and did that kind of cutting. That's why we have all the wood chips, okay. But look and see that's because they're there, and I don't personally. I don't have a problem with that. The problem becomes where you have a question of liability. Where we used to have a program where, we would have members of the committee go out, and somebody says, "Oh, I want to go cut up some tree that's fallen," and the trouble became like threefold. Number one, they not only cut down that, but they cut down a live tree. Okay. Oh, that's a walnut. I could really, so it's like, we'll do this. No, you can't do that. Okay. Secondly, they're out there and they cut themselves. Okay. So it's like, some Monty Python little, routine, but it's, it's a little, that's very serious. And then the township turns around and gets sued because there's liability. Oh, well, even though you signed a waiver, well, even so. So I'm a little hesitant to say that. So generally, I would say no, but you know, there's a certain reasonableness to the whole.
I would not be for it from the standpoint is that these are supposed to be natural areas in that. And so if a tree falls or whatever it is, and you know, the natural process is for it to decay in place, not for people to go in and collect firewood and from that standpoint. So the woods we steward are not for personal use. They're supposed to be left as much in their natural state as we can preserve and still be able to utilize them with some trails and things like that. But again, those are planned out. We try to be as unobtrusive as possible in that, but going in and retrieving down trees for wood purposes outside of that, I would not be in favor of that. Let alone from all the safety standpoints and that.
So we were told somebody was doing that. We don't even know who it was, but
Yeah,
I just
sure.
wanted to ask, and anybody watching this can
Well,
hear it.
I can tell you from my own experience there, you know, in the area where I live, I mean, there were bikers that were going through there, so, in this open space. No, actually, at one point, it was private property, okay, that was owned on that one strip. The 7/9 that were owned by private individuals, and the other 2/9 were, of the lots were owned by, the Nature Conservancy. So, guy's got his chainsaw out there, and I came home. It's like, what are you doing? He says, like, so can I go do that in your backyard too? Okay, because you can't. Oh, well, we just want to make a path clear. No, you can't. This is first off, that was absolutely private property, and let alone. So it was like, you know, I didn't call the police. I said, please leave before I have to call the police. So that's yeah.
And additionally to that, yard waste should not be dumped in open space, you know, for the same reasons. That's not part of the natural process of the woodlands area. So removing wood, throwing in yard waste, is neither of those should be acceptable.
Right. Anything else? So yeah, so this summer when you're out, okay, put your bug spray on, get out there, but check out our trails.
Definitely.
Good. If you look in your packet, I met yesterday actually with Joshua Burwald, our Eagle Scout candidate, and he gave me at least this project workbook, and it's pretty lengthy, but you know, in the middle of it is his proposal to what he'd like to do as his Eagle Scout project. And we've talked about a number of things, like, hey, you could get out there and help refurbish the Parkway Trail. That was going to be one of his, you know, and he thought, well, okay, maybe I don't want to do that. But he was intrigued by the doing something with a kayak launch. And I did talk to Derek Thiel several months ago when we were first proposing this, and he said, yeah, we have a kayak launch that's at water's edge, excuse me, that was sitting on dry land, and I still think it's still there, okay? But moving it somewhere on the north end was going to be the possibility. So I think what Joshua Burwald is proposing is to make either like a slipway or a walkway to wherever we put this. The original thought was that, like in the bird sanctuary off of Morkland, where we did have an incident with the sign, there's a lot of parking there, ample parking. It is isolated, but you know, it's away from other houses and things of that nature. There's some natural slope that goes to the thoroughfare canal at that north end of the thoroughfare canal. And I did talk to some people who are kayakers, and if they're going to put in, they generally don't put in at water's edge. They put in like that right on that area, but they put it in on the east side, like where that bad sign is. There's a natural kind of a path that has been worn, and they toss their kayak or their canoe there, and generally then park their car, down by the bird sanctuary and walk back to their kayak either north or south from there. So that was a possibility. Derek Thiel also suggested that why don't we look sometime like either at the Nature and Land Conservancy, the Bruce Jones Preserve might be a possibility, and the area to the north of that, which the township now owns, if I understand correctly. So there's some possibilities. And I talked to Joshua Burwald yesterday, and we kind of walked through there, where, and I said there may be an issue like where we put it. It may not be here, in the Thoroughfare Canal. It may be, but again, that's to be determined. So I don't know if you, I will, I just gave this to you, so I just got it yesterday and made copies today. But if you want to look this over, and if you have any, kind of read through it and have some thoughts on this. Do you have any thoughts on it, like right now?
You talked about the Bruce Jones Preserve. Have you approached the Land Conservancy on it? So
that has to I told him that would be another hoop that you have to jump through. Although I have talked to Paul Glure, the president of the Grosseille Nature and Land Conservancy, who is an avid kayaker. So he has great interest as to where this may be put. Okay, so there may be a possibility of putting it in the Bruce Jones area. I don't have a problem with that. Maybe on the other side of it, I don't have a problem with that. Or the area off of Morkland. And Mr. Carson, I think you were in that area not too long ago, and you were scoping out the.
Yeah, actually, I was walking last night, and just knowing that this was a potential project, and just glanced at along the Thoroughfare Canal, and there's a relatively gentle slope. It'll definitely need some cleaning out, some work there. I don't know what the water in the shore is like, or what would need to be built.
Right.
I did walk the Bruce Jones Preserve for the first time about a week or two back, but I didn't get down to the waterfront there, so I don't know. It'd be interesting for him to maybe reach out to kayakers and what's their preferred location. Do they want to be on open water? Do they want to be on a canal? Or what's the kayaking community?
No, I agree.
So.
Anybody else? Any other comment?
I look at the ease of launching. I know with mine, sometimes we'll put them in at the yacht club, but other places, before we joined the yacht club, it was really tough to find a place that you could just easily put it into the water. And
right.
Yeah.
And part of the problem, I think, with the Water's Edge launch is that's pretty swift current there. And if you're a novice kayaker, that's a bit of a baptism of by fire going in there. Like, okay, I want to try this. I think, it looks really cool. I want to enjoy this with my family. And next thing you know, you're already capsized, and you got some, your kayak's halfway down the river. So, and I'm not joking on that. I know that.
yeah.
So. So now the only, let me just say, make not a caveat, but at least something. He's a busy young man. Okay, he's going to be a senior now, I think, in high school, and he plays, fall sports. So it's a question of he'd like to get going on this. Okay, but he also needs, and I said, well, time out. Okay, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered, and one of the things he has to do is come before this group and do his presentation. So even though he has this, okay, he needs to be able to, he's got some work to do with his scout troop first, okay? So he's got to get some approvals, and he has to get some, he has to get the whole project, approved by the scouts, okay? And then he needs to come to us, and we need to approve it, okay? Because if he's going to be using an open space area, then we're in charge of that, and we need to take that into account. So, or if it's a nature conservancy, that's a different group he's going to have to do, but he still has to come at least to us because we at least started it. So, and then he has to go to the township board. So this is the process that is followed. There may be permits that he needs through Eagle, you just don't, I'm going to put a walkway here, and we're going to launch this, and I'm going to degrade the slope of the area. It's like that isn't, you're going to do it. So, there's some, but that's all part of the learning process. It's all part of the process for him and the scouts and that, and for us in that case. So, So he's aware of that. But, so I may ask, and that's why I guess I'm going to ask you guys, like, what's your plans in July? Because we would like to hear Yolanda's presentation on communication plan, try to improve our footprint in terms of social media. We also may like to hear this, if you guys are around, at least we can say yay or nay, or there's go back to the drawing board, we got stuff to do. But he wants to start in August, or he wants to get it done, because he wants to get it done, and we do too. So, so what's your availability in July? Are you around the 4th, or after the week after the 4th? Or
Not available on the 4th.
No, of course, yeah, of course. But after the 4th, maybe, the week after or something. I mean, we can look at. Where I'm trying to look. I was kind of jockeying around everybody's schedule, but at least if we have a possibility.
I don't have any definite plans.
Okay, you good? All
I
right.
have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Hey, I asked a question.
Yes.
Potential question. Before he brings this to us, does a site have to be selected? Because it makes it difficult
Yes, it
for us to
does.
approve
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Right.
So
So between now and our meeting, I guess the site will be selected, or at least there should be a
Yeah, so
discussion on that.
that's,
Oh, yeah.
there's
Oh,
still quite a
absolutely.
bit of work
Oh,
there.
there is. There's a
so,
lot of work. He just
I mean-
he just handed this to me yesterday.
I mean, talking about meeting in as soon as maybe 4 weeks, it's not a lot of time to get all that stuff hammered out, but,
Right.
okay.
And I told him, I said, first off, you're the one with the deadline, okay? So he has, we're here, and we'd like to first off help him and help, these kind of projects for the enjoyment of all people on Grosse Ile. But it's also a question of, but he has to have his Eagle Spout project done by the time he's 18, right? Well, I think he just turned 16, so he's got a couple of years. So I said, so as it gets going, we'll see. And there's a lot of different, if he's got to wait for an Eagle permit, that's going to push it back. I'll tell you that right now, because they're not just going to. Oh yeah,
Eagle
right away.
permits can take months.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I know that. So it's like, okay. So, but it's fine. So it may be all right. He starts it now, gets the process going, goes through everything he has to do, and the building's not going to be this fall. It'll be in the spring. So, however, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, at least to have some discussion on this, so that we can.
I think the concept of the project is great, and I think he'll have some due diligence to do to figure out the reality of it, and what it means and where it can go.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else on that? Right.
I love he wants to add a fish cleaning station
Yes.
to it.
Good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. No, I know. And this is a total aside, but I get great joy, okay, when I see 10 and 11-year-old kids, boys and girls, on their bikes with their fishing poles and
Yeah.
their tackle. I just think I'm getting goosebumps right now. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
to
is.
give because that's just come on. That's a great lifelong skill. It's just if nothing else, teaches patience. Okay. Good. I do believe we're on to our next thing about welcome letters, and I think we're getting to a point where we're going to be able to welcome people and send welcome letters. Am I correct, Mr. Carson? I know Ms.
Saw the-
Brown's involved too.
Yep, we saw the email this week. Miss Brown and I have not had a chance to connect, but we'll make sure we get that organized and taken care of in the next
Right.
week to 2 weeks.
And again, we generally we have a form letter that we can update and we can send you. Okay, it's not a form letter; it's not dear blank, but it's it's a letter that we send to new residents. Welcoming to Grosse Ile, but also, or even if it's change in neighborhood, hey, come and enjoy the properties, open space, or become involved and help us steward these things and get involved. We also give them the coveted guide to natural areas of Grosse Ile, which is those are in high demand, of course, and we have a new edition of those too. So we're able to get those to them, and I do know. I think there's been some discussion about can we also include a welcome from the Nature and Land Conservancy. I don't have a problem with that either. So if we're doing that.
So there's the package that goes out from the township, right? That has a lot of the information in it. And I believe the Resource Center puts a postcard or different information in that.
Okay, I'm not aware of that. But
Yeah, so
okay.
were you thinking we send this stuff out directly, or
So
put
we
it
have
into
sent
that?
this, ever since I've been on this committee, the Greenways Open Space Committee has always had an individual or individuals responsible for when, and they get a list from the township on new residents. And basically what we do is we send them a welcome letter, and we find that we don't want to do it when you first get it. It's okay to delay it a month, okay, because people are busy and they're not settled, okay. So if you give it, so if you got the May, here are new residents in May, if it gets out in July, that's great, okay. So you can even skip a month. But yeah, but we've sent those since time immemorial, I think.
Okay, because the Resource Center, I think they send out postcards maybe 3 times a year, but
Okay.
then there's also that package that the township sends out, and I
Okay.
think it has stuff from maybe businesses and
Okay.
the Resource
I
Center.
wasn't aware of that, okay,
So
good.
just an
But-
option.
But I'm just saying, but
Yeah.
we've done this, so we'll also, get you everything you need, get you going on that. Okay, good. Brings us to our last item, okay, encroachment issues and enforcement policies and ordinances. So, I can turn it over to whomever.
You want me to kick it off? Yes. Okay. So, encroachments have been an issue for a long time on open space and also on the Grosse's Nature and Land Conservancy property. So I've been working with Jimmy, with Ross, with Derek to say, what can we do to get this taken care of? So we've identified some properties, and like one has a driveway in open space. Another one, probably because they saw that one house that had the driveway, they put in a driveway as well on open space. So we have those types of encroachments, and then we have the one on Voight where they actually took an axe and started chopping down trees. So Ross and these guys sent out a letter to them and basically said that the property needs to be remediated.
Right.
And so the thing that I think where we fit in is the property owners aren't going to know what we want them to do to fix it. So we were talking about possibly you, myself, anybody else from the committee that wants to go, Ross, and if you want to go, that we look at the property, we tell them what we want them to do to remediate it. And then after that, we go back out and inspect the property. And so there's one for the Grosse's Nature and Land Conservancy that they actually put like some type of asphalt or something down and built a parking lot on an easement. So Paul Glore gave me a letter saying exactly what he wanted, and he said for that one, of course, that layer of like asphalt or whatever it is needs to be picked up. And then the land prepared with like soil and that, and then to even put down native seeds for wildflowers, but to also put a couple boulders so that it'll kind of keep people from encroaching again in the future. So I'm thinking if after we go out and we see the property, we could put together a letter for each property saying what we're looking for, and then they can give that to the homeowner, and then with a certain time to fix it, and then afterwards we can inspect it. And then if it doesn't get done, they could actually be subject to criminal and civil liability. And in many cases, it would be cheaper for them to do a little bit of the restoration or some or all of it than for us to hire that out.
Right.
And so, those are conversations, but I think this committee needs to be an integral part of that to make sure that it does in fact get fixed the way that we think it should. And then, for example, like on Voight now, I was originally thinking that they needed to restore all the ground cover and everything. That's actually growing in well, so it's the trees that are an issue. Yeah, and so each one is a little different.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
Because the other issue on something like that, so let's say, okay, they cut down 10 trees, and we say, well, you gotta put 10 trees back, okay? Part of the problem with that is that you also just don't plant a tree, you have to nurture the tree, okay?
have to
And
water
so
it,
you get
you
into
have
that,
to-
you gotta water it, you gotta do
Right.
that. Okay, so there's a component to that that's important, okay? So
Yeah.
you could very easily, a person that has encroached could put the trees in, say, okay, I'm done, okay, I'm blameless now, I don't have to do anything. Well, no, you shouldn't have cut the trees down in the first place, number one,
Right.
and number two, that's part of the issue, so.
And you can get a small tree for maybe $50, right? But
Right.
the trees that they're cutting down are mature trees
Well,
and
that's
they're
it.
thick in
You know, that's,
diameter.
you know,
So I think what we could do too is say, hey, we'll give you initial approval that maybe you planted the trees or worked with so-and-so to do it. But then I think we have to be able to go out there and inspect every so often to make sure that they are watering it or doing what they
Right.
need to do to keep it alive
right.
as well.
That's tough, right, that's very tough. Good, no, I agree.
Okay, so then I think, as far as next steps, is that we need to get with you, with Ross, and whoever wants to off of this committee to go out and look at the properties and decide what we want done for each one.
Right. Here's what I generally, you know, I've been on this committee maybe 6 years, 7 years. Okay, and I'm not, it's just a question of, at least I guess when I was kind of trained in order to do this, generally the procedure was not to have a member of this committee, Mr. Geis, go knock on somebody's door and say, hey, you got an encroachment over there, okay,
Right.
you need to do something about it, because now you have a volunteer on a committee, okay, in a confrontation with a resident who
Right.
obviously is, you know, and so you have that.
That you won't be doing,
That
no.
you don't know.
No.
But I'm saying,
No.
but I was, you know, that has generally never been the case, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The other piece is, I don't know in the history of this committee, and I guess I don't know the history well enough, what the file shows, how many times has the enforcement resulted in going to court or resulted in it? And I can't answer that.
From what I understand, is at least the board before our current board,
Yes,
said if you can get them to stop, just have them stop,
Right.
and then don't worry about doing anything else.
Right.
And now I'm on the board saying, no, it's got to be remediated.
Yes,
It's got to
yes,
be.
and I hear that, okay,
Yeah.
so no, and there's, you know, there's it's a different time, that's, you know, I
Right.
get that, but I'm just saying.
So as far as the homeowners, like the ordinance officer would still go out there and do the initial check. We would go out to the open space property
Right,
that we have governance over
right,
and do the inspection. And then I think that we should put together a letter that says, okay, this is what we want done for each property. And then they can take that and put it into a letter to the homeowner.
right, no,
Yeah.
any discussion on that, or any? Did
And
you
I just
wanna?
want to say, ultimately, that's what I handed out to everyone this packet. The open space encroachment procedures. That's basically what we just were going over. How we're going to handle it. How is the most appropriate way to handle it is, because again, we don't want someone who isn't a part of encroachment or enforcement specifically going up to these homeowners and saying, hey, you can't do, like,
Right,
No.
you know, it's one thing to say you can't do it, but like enforcing things on them, we can't have that.
Right.
That would be my position, and then or Julie's position, and us handling it in the best way. And this is just the rough draft sort of steps written out from Ross on how we will handle it, and ultimately it will it can start with a citizen complaint or whatever it may be, and then in that sense, I will either go out personally, or Julie, I'll schedule her to go out and do an inspection. And then also, it's going to take a lot from the open space committee to come out there, so we know exactly what we want to do and how to remedy the situation at hand. Again, as Mickey was saying, it was more of a situation where it was, just stop doing this. We're going
Right.
to move on, but we do understand that there needs to be some justification on what was already done.
right,
So whether that be replacing, the trees or the bushes, whatever it may be, and that's something that's going to more so have to come from the open space committee because again, in the past that wasn't something that was normally addressed, and I can say for myself personally that I don't know much about specific types of trees where
Sure.
they can grow and everything of such and what they need. So it really will be up to the open space committee to help navigate that to make sure it's appropriately addressed.
Thank you. You made me think of something else too. So we definitely want like native flowers or native trees.
Right.
And Doug Theo, right? I already mentioned to him, hey Doug, if we need some help on the trees,
Right.
and he's all over it for us if we
Sure.
need them.
Could you send me electronic electronic copy of this first page here? And I'll
Yeah.
Attach it to the meeting
Yeah.
minutes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Eventually get around to doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any, first off, I do know, when the township has like a code enforcement that they've used, like when you put like, okay, you have trash on the side of your house, or you have, so, and as I'm looking at our open space encroachment enforcement procedures, it draws on this, okay? So this is also something that is in place, has been in place, and how, people need to, respond and act accordingly, okay? So when we're looking at this, so would it behoove us to first off, yes, we agree that something has to be done in enforcing, but we would have to approve this as a body. So should we?
I think we'll have some edits to it.
That's what I'm saying. So it
yeah.
doesn't need, we're not gonna act on this tonight.
No, I think we'll definitely have some edits to it about us going out to inspect, and then like the ongoing requirements to
Right.
water or do whatever it is until it gets
Right,
to the point where it
established.
can, yeah,
And I also do want to say we are in touch with our township's lawyer.
yep.
On drafting this whole thing, finding the best ways and the ways we are actually able to approach these situations. So,
Right.
But
No,
these
that's good.
ones are already being addressed. Letters were sent to all these homeowners. So
yes.
we
Correct.
could even, go out, inspect, and give them our thoughts, and give them our thoughts on the policies. But in the meantime, for these ones that are outstanding, they can already,
Well, they should be taken care of, right, I
Yeah.
agree, okay,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is that we still, as this group, has to review this, okay, and also we need some input in this too, you know what I'm saying, since
Yeah.
if we're gonna be out and doing inspections or going out and making recommendations as to what's, that make sense?
I
Okay,
think it's a really important part for the committee to weigh in, because the one thing I saw is
Right.
when Julie goes out to these homes, then she'll type in notes into a system. And I saw on the one, she probably said 3 or 4 times, hey, I need input from open
Right,
space
right,
on
yeah.
how they would like to see this,
oh,
so,
that's fine, I
yeah,
hear that.
yeah.
And I think that's part of it too, and I've had some discussion with our township supervisor, in terms of, you gotta close the loop too. So sometimes what happens is that, we think, okay, we get an encroachment complaint, the ordinance officers go out, Julie goes out, however it's done, okay, and next thing you know, that's all, the last time we hear about it. Okay, and so, that's okay, but that, there has to be feedback, not only to the person that's involved in that, yeah, and I've read that. So this
Yeah.
is
I just wanted to make
this is a
sure.
good thing, so this
I
is
had a
long
lot of
overdue.
Conversations
Okay.
about that it doesn't do us any good if we make a
No.
complaint and then we don't hear back
And
what
don't hear
happened.
back one way, or nobody hears back, okay,
Right, and
so
so-
that's,
yeah,
that's
that'll-
part of the
communication will
issue.
be a big part of
Communication's a
it.
critical piece. Any other comment or question?
Well, I just want to thank Mickey and James for the progress that they've made on this, and I know the Conservancy will be really very, very happy to know this. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for doing this. I know it's kind of a work in progress right now.
Yeah, but
that
I'm
safe to say?
action oriented, so nothing counts until the properties are mitigated,
Yeah, right.
right? And
I
so,
heard. Yeah,
keep
this-
on me.
We won't, no, don't.
We'll get it done.
We're good. However, let me get clarification. If we should have a special meeting, would it be a wise thing on our part, hey, we're gonna have a special meeting, please, besides one presentation, 2 presentations, we're gonna maybe approve the open space encroachment procedures. So maybe between now and then, if there's something you see in here, you wanna kinda, I don't like that word, I like trying to help wordsmith it, does that make sense?
Yeah,
And I think, so we can do that. So somewhere between now and after the 4th of July, whenever that is, we're gonna have our meeting. We may be, but I think it's important on our part to approve, whatever document they would have, particularly if it's gonna involve us.
yeah, they definitely want our input, and then we also need, to set up a time for us all to meet to go look at the properties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When we're out adventuring on some of the trails while we're at it.
Yeah, it'd actually
Good.
be nice,
Oh,
yeah.
that's good. I'm all for that.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on that?
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
both.
thank you both.
Welcome.
All right, what do we have? Is there anything else for the good of the cause? Yes, reports. Anything with the school liaison team? We're getting there, guys, okay?
There's really nothing going on, it being the end of the school year. So there's not, as far as I know, there's nothing planned like for the summer either.
Except you're gonna come to some meetings and go out and monitor some of the woods by your house and stuff like that.
Could you repeat what she said? I couldn't hear a word.
She was nice and loud for Miss Phillips. Just tell her there's not much going on.
Pardon me?
Not much going on.
Oh, not much going on, okay.
I do have a question to ask. I won't put you on the spot, but again, both you and Miss Shelton, there will come a time, like, if you want to re-up for next year. Do you want to re-up for next year? So if you can tell me that now, or that's good, or tell us that, or if not, I mean, you're thinking of doing this again?
Yeah. I
Because you
think
have so much fun, you know, coming to these meetings, talking about signs and trails and encroachment, and that's okay. It's all good. Good. Okay. So Robinson's in. Good. Mickey, anything from the township?
Yep. So when I'm looking at issues with ordinance enforcement or things that could harm, you know, our environment, another thing was, and you guys probably saw it on Facebook, there was a boat that sank off the West River, that small boat. So I asked Ross and Jimmy about it, and then it got turned over to the police department. They were already working on it. So that boat did get towed. So that is out of the water, the one that was off of West River. You've seen it then?
I've seen it,
Yeah, yeah. And so that's out of there. Because I worried, you know, it could have fuel in it or
yeah.
anything. Yeah. But Chief Carmack told me all about that today, and it took him a little bit because they had to involve the Coast Guard and had to follow some rules. So, but yep, he got that done. And then the other thing is actually Doug Thiel brought this up to me before I got on the board about the township uses weed killer a lot, and they can be using it near the water and other things. And so Doug asked me to look into it. So I asked Derek, and he spoke with John Kime. John was able to find one that's more sensitive to the environment. And so it's not for grass, it's for like concrete, like here out at the airport, right? And so they're testing it to see how well it works. So I was just happy to hear that.
Right. Awesome.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, and that's it for me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's good. All right. James, anything on community development?
Just in terms of those 4 properties for encroachment, on the last piece with the Ingersoll on the top left, that is what we are based on right now with those current and with enforcements. Also, Ross had emailed you, and you had sent his notes. This is just a rough draft, a summary of what he said on the main parts. But you know, everyone was emailed, put in an email thread for what Ross was saying about those, how we're handling them. Again, that is all on here. One of them for the 25607 4th Street. He said he's willing to restore and remove gravel driveway according to open space determination.
Mm-hmm.
I do just want to double check with Ross and make sure that we are going to actively, you know, schedule, like we can schedule together some time to go out there. And then I just want to talk with him on that maybe tomorrow. And then if that is the case, then, you know, I can send in an email thread to all of you guys, say like, hey, it's all as a go. We can go whenever we all are able to get together to go look at it and just kind of make our judgment call on that. I just want to double check with him, make sure we're all clear there. But in terms of everything else, you had already sent out where we are at with from Ross replies on all these different properties. So
From what I heard, the homeowners are actually very nice people, and some of this
Right.
stuff happened before they even moved
Yes.
in, and they're
Right.
more than willing to work with us to get it fixed.
and that's the case for a lot of these properties. They do believe that they were and one of the neighbors was basically agreeing with one of the other, because they're right across from each other, saying like, I've never seen her cut any trees. I've never cut any trees.
Right.
They had all just been done previously from previous owners, which does make it a little more tricky to handle from an enforcement view, because we can't require them to do the plantings or we may not, I'm not going to say we can't, we may not be able to require them to do any sort of plantings if they were not the ones who took them down,
right.
and they had already bought the properties and they were already, you know, cut down and such like that. So, and we have no way to prove that they were necessarily the ones.
I can use as a perfect example. If you go to Centennial Farm, you know, Centennial Farm, and you head west, Okay, like there's a trail there that goes all the way, and it kind of loop, doesn't go all the way to Meridian, but it circles back around and comes back around. If you take a look at some of the properties, and keep in mind that's open space, but on that's whatever, that's Bellevue there. Okay, I mean, there are like pathways, I mean, that have been there probably for 30 years, 40 years, that there's nothing there. It's like, it's like a green, it's like a hallway. And there's more than a few of those, okay? So long before there was like open space and open space ordinances and things of that nature, I mean, these trails or these pathways were there. So it's kind of difficult to say, oh, I just bought a house on 5th Street, 4th Street, on Manchester, and next thing you know, it's kind of like, oh, well, you're responsible for, no, it's like, what are you talking about? This has always been there, so.
But so maybe in those cases that we can take it out of our budget and put down some topsoil and put down maybe,
Right. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something to look at. I mean, believe
and maybe
me.
when we go to look at these properties, if we have time, you could show us that as well.
Yeah, oh, I will.
Yeah.
Yep, very
Yeah.
much so. Okay, anything else on that? So thank you, James, that was good. Mandy, anything from the Nature and Land
Oh,
Conservancy?
yeah, got a couple things. Excuse me. The Nature Conservancy recently organized a successful cleanup at Sunrise Park at the foot of Parkway in East River. Thanks to the very hard work of 15 dedicated volunteers, the grass was cut, trees were trimmed, leaves raked, mulch refreshed, and the beach thoroughly cleaned. And it was just so noted that it's really the main kayak drop-off place now. Park is in excellent condition and ready to be used. Thanks to everyone that contributed, and we hope you saw us at Island Fest, either in the parade or visit our booth at the airport. Upcoming events this Sunday, June 8th, fresh fish, sturgeon, at the Resource Center from 1 o'clock to 2:30.
They're cooking sturgeon? No.
Did I say that right?
Oh,
Sturgeon.
Yeah, no, it's sturgeon.
Yeah.
But you don't, never mind. I'm being smart aleck.
Fresh fish, sturgeon.
Yeah.
Learn about the fascinating history of the Great Lakes' most mysterious fish, the sturgeon, and the ecological challenges it has faced over the past 200 years. Saturday, June 14th. So there's two different things here. One's on June 8th for the sturgeon, and from 1 to 2:30. I'm sorry about this. It's the way it's written. And Sunday, June 8th. And then on June 14th, the learning about the history of the fish in the Great Lakes from 1:30 to 2:30 at the Resource Center. Native tree care and composting. John at the John Jackson Resource Center. Time 10 to 11:30. Presented by board member Doug Thiel and Joanne Wilson. This session will cover the development of the Conservancy's new native tree nursery, which is in the back towards where the playscape was. It's not quite there, but it's coming along, and it offers useful tips on composting to support sustainable practices at home. For full listing of our events, you can go to GINLC.org. That's it. Sorry about the confusion.
No, it's good. Thank you. All good. Welcome letters, Bob, we've already talked about, and Yolanda, we at least have the list, which is a good thing, and we'll get those going too shortly. This comes at the time in our meeting where we have the second public comment period, and this can be about anything that we've talked about so far at this meeting. First one is generally you can talk about anything. It's good. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:19.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bartlett,
Second.
second by Ms. Phillips. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good. All right, good. Thank you.